Hello and welcome to Weird Reads. I'm your host, Jason White, and today I have a new guest. Amanda Headlee is with me, and I'm very happy to have you. Do you mind giving yourself a quick introduction?
Sure, yeah. I'm Amanda Headlee. I like to call myself a crafter of dark fiction, and so I'm very happy to be here with you today.
Awesome. I was so excited. It was funny because I was talking to Todd Kiesling, and I asked a question like, who do you think people should be reading, but they're not talking about enough? And he mentioned you. And so I was like, okay. I wrote your name down. I was like, Amanda Headlee, okay. And then I was talking to Candace Nola, and she mentioned you again. And at that point, I had already gotten your book, and I was planning on reading it. I was like, okay, if I can get her on the show, I can read her book. And because a lot of the books I read are for this show, and so I was happy to be able to get that in. Your book is so good, but we'll get to that soon. So yeah, thank you for joining me. The first question I have, though, is it's always the same question. And so what is your horror origin story?
Oh, I think I was born into this world as a horror. And it's just I've always just been drawn to darker themes, darker stories. I don't know. It's just it's always been in me. I remember even as a child always going to the movies, the TV shows, the books that had monsters. Like, I'm an obsessive dinosaur fan, so I always love reading books about dinosaurs and monsters. So I think it's just always been in me. I was born in this world to be a part of the horror realm.
Awesome. When I was a kid, from until about the age of 8 or 9, I was terrified of anything that just didn't make any sense. I was afraid, for example, of that old Incredible Hulk show.
Oh my gosh, his name just went right out of my head. But yes,
I know Lou Ferrigno, I think, something like that.
Yes, Lou Ferrigno. Yeah.
Whenever the guy who played the Hulk, though, or the character before he became the Hulk, whenever his eyes turned like that golden green color, I was out of the room.
Yeah, I was like, it was always creepy.
Yeah. But once I turned 9, it was like I watched my first horror movie and it was game over. But I find it interesting because either people embraced it right away, or they were like me, they were terrified of it. But I'm glad that you liked it from the beginning. Do you remember?
Yeah,
do you remember who you first read?
I do. Yeah. Well, it was books. There's a lot of books that I remember as my first read for horror, so it's really hard to go back to that. But I remember the first movie that I saw, and it was a made-for-television movie of Alice in Wonderland, Alice Through the Looking Glass, 1998 version. It's the one with Carol Channing in it, and the Jabberwock. Like, I remember being so terrified of the Jabberwock, but not being able to look away from it. Yeah. And even like running up the steps and kind of hiding behind the banisters to watch it, or running and hiding behind the arm of the sofa to watch it. It's so vivid in my mind still to this day. And I had to have been probably like 4. I was probably like 3 or 4 when it came out, because I think it aired in like 86. So I was probably like 3. Well, yeah, I would have been 3 at that point. But I still remember it so vividly, and having a very active imagination about it, where it like would live in my mirror in my closet, so I could never go into my closet without turning the lights on.
Yeah.
Or because I was a lucky kid where I had a huge walk-in closet as a child, and I remember always throwing my shoes at the mirror and things like that, trying to like keep the Jabberwock in the mirror because I didn't want to go into Wonderland. Wonderland, though, in this day and age, I would not mind that happening.
Yeah, it might be a better world over there.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, hello, can you come get me now? I'm ready.
There might not be any orange tyrants running around destroying everything.
Exactly. Just a crazy red queen. That's it.
Yeah. Do you remember the books that the first horror authors that you started reading?
I remember reading Salem's Lot very
Oh,
young.
yes.
Um, and it's so funny. It's like whenever people ask me this, it's like my mind just suddenly goes blank.
Yeah, me
But
too. I have that. Yeah,
like,
that happens to me.
yeah, there was a couple of Joyce Carol Oates that I read when I was younger. I was really obsessed with the Garth Nix Abhorsen series, which was like necromancy.
Mm.
It's kind of more young adult fantasy, but it was heavy, heavy, heavy with the dark tones of horror. So I've always loved that series. I still read it today. Um, yeah, it's Jurassic Park. I read Jurassic Park when I was in the sixth grade, and like that is my annual read. I read it every single year
Oh,
because
that's nice.
it's just still a classic favorite. So yeah, anything that I could get my hands on that had the darker tones, that's usually what my bookshelves were filled with, much to
Nice.
my mom's chagrin.
Jurassic Park. I've seen that movie so many times that I don't
Same.
know if I can. I don't know if I because I used to be with a person who had kids, and their kids watched that movie at least 10, 20 times while I was in that relationship, and then I got into a different relationship, and we had our own kid, and he watched that movie endlessly. I don't know if I can read the book now. I really should have read it early on, I think.
Oh, no, read it because I saw the movie when it came out in '93. Like my dad took me to opening night when it came
Yeah.
out, and and then I would have read the book a couple years later, and it's so different than the movie. I
Oh,
really
is it?
wish they would make a true adaptation to it. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Maybe I will
but
check it out.
it's fantastic, and and then the sequel, The Lost World, is equally as great. It's not. I think there's just like a few elements that they pull from that book for the movie, but the both books are fantastic.
Excellent. I might check it out then. Because I watch a lot of booktube and TikTok or
Hmm.
book talk, whatever you want to call it. And people talk about that book and they say how great it is, but they never
Yeah,
mention that it's different from the movie. So I always just
yeah.
assumed it was a really good, close adaptation because the movie's
You
really good, right?
Oh, the movie's fantastic and was definitely a game changer in cinema. I also know that movie very much off by heart because I probably watch it. I still watch it every few months, even though I've seen it a billion times. But yeah, the movie itself, like there are some like there's resemblance to both, between the book and the movie, but I've noticed like in the newer Jurassic World films, they start pulling like little snippets. Like there's a beautiful river scene and it's
Mhm.
absolutely horrific in the
Yeah.
book. That I feel like they kind of did a little bit of finally in the Jurassic World Rebirth movie,
Hmm.
where it's a little bit of an homage to that, but still, it wasn't still done on the same scale as what it is in the book.
That would be interesting if they were to adapt it into a little more to what the book is. So yeah, I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
check that out now because I need to know.
Definitely do. And it's funny which characters actually die and which ones actually
Oh,
survive
really? That's
versus the
interesting.
movie. Yep.
God, okay, you got me interested. I wrote it down in my notes here. I'm gonna definitely check it out.
Yeah,
I don't think I've read anything by that author. What's the author's name
Michael
again?
Crichton.
Michael Crichton. Yes.
Yeah.
But
Congo's another good book. Like he has a lot of books that I really
yeah,
like.
I want to read Sphere too. I just love the idea
Oh,
of that one.
Sphere's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then if you haven't seen the movie, watch the movie after.
Oh, is it good too?
It's okay. But it's I always love seeing the difference between the movies and the books.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. As I mentioned, well, looking into you for the podcast for this discussion here, I listened, I think, to like two or three episodes, the most recent ones I could find anyway.
Hmm.
And you mentioned this every time, and I learned that you are a fan of cosmic horror. And I'm also
Yes.
a cosmic horror fan. So I want to know what it is that draws you to
Oh,
cosmic horror.
it's that. Oh, there's so much to it. It's part of it is the level of the unknown of what's really out there in the grander scheme of the universe. Like what is out there is obviously bigger than us,
Yeah.
and um, and it's weird. I was just at VoidCon a couple weeks ago on the Cosmic Horror panel, and it's like we were talking about character insignificance and are we really that insignificant in the grander scheme of the universe? So it's a dichotomy that I've been like kind of assessing a little bit more to like see how insignificant we are, because if you look at like the food chains and the life cycles of nature here on earth, every little bit of the food chain cycle has meaning to the end goal, or
Yeah.
to a greater species. So we really wouldn't survive very well here without honeybees and other pollinators.
Hmm.
So it's like now I'm kind of like shifting my focus as into what do we as human beings bring to the universe, which I have no answer, because I'm still like, we are nothing but a speck of dirt
Yeah.
in this endless cosmos. So that's been kind of like brewing in my head these past couple of weeks since the panel that I was on at VoidCon. But it's also like what I love about cosmic horror is the playing with the different kind of gods out there, and that there's always something greater. There's always a bigger baddie. And they're not necessarily a baddie. They're just out there doing their thing.
Yeah.
We as humans just see them as a baddie because it doesn't align to our reality or our goals. So it's just like I just find all that so fascinating, and just the unknown, limitless possibilities that we as authors can have with cosmic horror, because
Yeah.
we can make up anything, and it could be right.
True enough. I like. I want to go back to humanity's insignificance in terms of the universe. I've heard a scientist say something along the lines of, we're conscious beings, and some of us are smart enough to learn about space, and
Mm-hmm.
so in a strange sort of, I don't know what you call it, but a strange sort of result of this is we are stardust, as Sagan has said.
Mm-hmm.
So we are made of the universe. So we're basically the universe observing itself.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's our significance.
I
Maybe
like
we
that.
are.
The conscious universe observing ourselves. Wow.
Yeah. I you
That's
know I
starting to send me black down a black hole.
yeah, I've often thought about consciousness itself, because it's a strange thing, right? Uh,
Yeah.
and you have to wonder, how did the universe exist without anyone to observe it? Considering uh, some scientists, some of their studies about observation and whether it exists or not unless it's observed. But we're going down a different hole now,
I
aren't
know,
we?
because I'm starting to say, well, are we sure that we're the first observers? Like
Yeah,
what, we don't know how. I mean, if the universe has been infinite and existing for endless time, again, what is time? But we can't be the only life out there. We can't
no,
be the only life that's ever been or ever was, or ever will be. So there's, and all matter would be made of the same elements throughout the universe. And I'm assuming those other creatures out there would be conscious, obviously.
yeah.
So they would be observing the observable universe too. Okay, now I'm starting to get like,
It's-
it's like you kind of, your brain goes numb and you start to stare at the walls, and that's
yeah.
cosmic horror.
You see, this is why I want to talk about this with you, because not too many. Well, I know people who like cosmic horror, but when you're like a big fan of it, you get excited about
Mm-hmm.
all the little nitty gritty parts. So I want to ask you a question about consciousness. Do you think, in terms of cosmic horror, do you think that consciousness could be a form of cosmic horror on its own?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of how to say this. So we're all energy. I mean,
Hmm.
that's all. Life is energy, and so like your consciousness is just basically energy that, I feel like I'm about to say something and it's gonna like, I gotta write it down. But like your consciousness, it's just energy. It's like energy is never destroyed. It's just always ongoing. And so I think that consciousness is just relative to this existence.
Yeah.
And but it's like now I'm like, well, if all things are made of matter and atoms are producing some form of energy, in the molecular state, what gives us the right to have consciousness and not, say, like the lamp that's sitting next to me?
Yeah.
Now I'm spiraling. That's not something people need to see, is me spiraling.
Thoughts that keep you up all night.
Yeah, and which will be, so I have to find my notebook and keep it next to the bed, because I'll probably
Yeah.
wake up 20 times in the middle of the night, and then I'll start researching because I need to like make sure I'm looking at the right theorems and different theories that are out there.
Yeah, I find this fascinating stuff, and it's stuff I think about probably a little bit too much. Uh,
Same.
yeah.
Same.
Do you have any cosmic horror authors or stories?
And again, I was just talking about this at VoidCon, but I absolutely love Algernon Blackwood. The
Mm,
Willows is by far my favorite cosmic horror story because it's I feel like it's very tightly tied to Earth as a being a part of the grander cosmic scheme. So I don't know if you're aware of the story The Willows, but or if you've read it, but
I've read it, yeah.
okay, all right. So it's just like the main character and his friend, the Swede, like they're just very much pulled into like this other realm while out. I believe it was the Danube, that they're just out in a canoe,
Yeah.
and they're experiencing this otherness that they don't quite know what it is, and the otherness is being born of these willow bushes, which willow bushes are a very natural species of plant life alongside a lot of rivers. So it's
Yeah.
just like the way that those willow bushes are acting, is it's uncanny to those characters. And then when I like start to think about that one, then I start thinking about other creatures that are very uncanny, like octopi. Octopi are very unique. Same thing with bees. They're
Mhm.
very unique creatures, compared to other animals that exist on this planet. So it's just like I just love how Blackwood took something so ordinary and made it extraordinary like that.
Yeah, and weird. Like
And
uh,
weird. Yep.
the book, I remember it's not a book, it's more of a
It's a
novel, short
shortish
story.
story.
Yeah, it might be a novelette at the most, but
Yeah, I'd say a novelette.
yeah, I remember it starts off. I mean, if you like travel logs, sort of,
Mm-hmm.
it starts off like that, and then they stay on that island where the river sort of splits off, and that's when things start going really weird, and then it it just goes there, and I
Yeah,
absolutely
it
loved it. Yeah,
it definitely does. So I'm a big fan of Blackwood. Probably more recent authors. I mean, obviously Todd and all of his eldritch cosmic horror that he writes about,
yeah,
with Devil's Creek and his upcoming book, that I'm trying to think if he had announced it yet. So just because
yeah.
I can't
Just in
remember if he's
case, yeah,
announced it, I'm not going to say anything. I've read bits of it. It's fabulous. But he's building a mythos that's pretty incredible. Mary San Giovanni, the Queen of Cosmic Horror.
hmm
She's incredible. Haley Piper. I just love what everybody's doing in creating their own realms, and that's
hmm
like the big thing I love with cosmic horror, because I'm kind of doing it with my own work. Is we're building our own mythos. We're building our own kind of world with our skew of cosmic horror, our interpretation of cosmic horror. What does cosmic horror mean to us? And I think a lot of it is how it affects us on an existential level.
yeah. Do you find that creating your own mythos? This is something that I've noticed with my own work. It's just a lot of it is just like connections that you didn't necessarily intend.
Hmm.
Do you find like as you write, like I have a fictional town that mirrors the real town that I live in, and that's part of my mythical reality. Do you find something similar happening with your own work?
Yeah, and it's more like so I have a fictional town that is in the Poconos, kind of northwest of the Jim Thorpe area, because I tell you, there's something with that area. There's
Hmm.
something absolutely, I don't know if it's haunted or cosmic, like it's just, there's energy there that's unbelievable. And I called my fictional town Demos, which is, one of the moons of Saturn, is also a god in, I think, Roman mythology. Someone's probably got to fact check me. That's really Greek mythology, so I apologize. I probably have messed that up. But yeah, I have a fictional town there, and it's not like I intend to connect everything back to Demos, but all roads are seemingly leading back to Demos in some way, shape, or form. I don't know the end game yet, but I'm noticing a lot of my larger works. Um, I'm subconsciously writing in connections that I have to then go back, and after I've finished the draft, I'm like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, that person links to this, or this links to that. And then I have to go and update my master grimoire so that,
Yeah.
I can keep track of it all, because it's starting to get to the point where I'm not able to keep track of it in my head anymore.
Yeah. So do you have like you mentioned a notebook. Do you have like a notebook that's specific to this type of thing?
I did, but it started to spiderweb out too much. That notebooks are too linear for me.
Hmm.
So I'm actually looking at a couple different apps to start using to help me bridge that gap. Also, I can't carry a notebook with me on all my travels because I'd have 50 notebooks. So I'm trying to like figure out how to move to a more digital presence with this so that I
Yeah.
have like everything on my iPad, because it's starting to be um, I carried everything with me on this last trip that I went overseas, and my backpack was way too heavy. And I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, I need to like get everything digital because it's starting to become too much.
Yeah, I that's what I do. I kind of wish I would. I use notebooks. Like you see me sometimes writing
Hmm.
stuff down while I'm talking to people, but everything else goes on my cell phone, right? So, um, yeah, it's easier, right? I can't carry books everywhere I go.
Yeah, yeah. I hate that it's coming to that, because I feel like I don't know if it's like I contemplate things more, if it becomes more ingrained in my brain when I handwrite it, um, versus typing it out. But I love to handwrite things, but it's just getting to the point where I can't, because it's too much.
Yeah, I find that I remember things better too if I write it down
Same.
rather than
Yep.
type it out. But yeah, it's it's not always available either, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you're in a place you don't have a notebook, you don't have paper, all you have is your phone. So that
I
has to.
know. I know.
Yeah.
It's like, I there were times when, I'd try to find, I remember like one time I was hiking, and I was trying to be like, oh, I have nothing. Let me try to write with mud on my hand, but that did
Oh
not
God,
work at
yeah.
all. Yeah.
And just write it
I'm
on your
like,
skin.
yeah. It was like, can I cut myself and write in blood? And I'm like, all right, that's a little too far. And then next thing you know, you'll be invoking something you don't want to invoke, so let's just not go there.
Yeah, that might not be a good idea.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Right. So, for listeners who are new to your work, how would you describe your writing, and what kind of
Um,
horror do you write?
yeah, I feel like my writing is evolving from where I started. So like I really love psychological and obviously cosmic horror.
Hmm.
So I'm really going to stay within that vein for the time being, but I'm like, I feel like the first stuff that I had put out was very steeped and heavy in horror. And then the the some of the things that I'm working on now, I feel like is very the one book I'm working on now is very dark sci-fi.
Oh,
So I feel
cool.
like I'm starting to evolve, because I've always been interested in science. Like I was going to school for my degree in macrobiology between starting off in marine biology and ending in macrobiology and,
Hmm.
stumbling my way through zoology and astronomy at one point. Like I changed my major like 50 times as I tried to find myself.
Yeah.
And even though I ended up with an English degree, um, I've always been like very steeped in the sciences. I love the sciences. And so I feel like I'm kind of moving to that place of where can I start um, really tying the sciences in with horror. And it's not so much the horror aspect of science, but it's more of that the unknown. Again, going back to cosmic horror, it's what we don't know may hurt us. And
Yeah.
so it's like a lot of my stuff is, well, what if this happens? And then this chain reaction kind of thing. So I feel like um, my writing's starting to evolve. Like with my last novella that came out, I was just very angry at the world. So that's what that novella was from, and some personal circumstances in my life at the time. That was a
Hmm.
very angry book. But I think now I'm kind of moving to a place of what kind of scientific facts can we bring to life and spin it into fiction?
Yeah. Is
But is
that
it
not?
really fiction?
Yeah. That novella that you released that you were really angry at the world, is that This Is How a Villain Is Made?
Yes, it is.
That was an angry book, but we'll get to that very. Actually, I just want to ask one more question before we get to that. I just want to know, how does a story start for you? Is it the characters that come first, or the what if scenario, or something else?
Um, Actually, it's always the ending.
Oh,
It's
really?
and I
Nice.
guess that kind of leans to that what if. But it's like I will have an absolutely horrific thought, and then I'm like, how did I get to that point? And then you go back and you work through it, and you bring characters to life, and you kind of start establishing the plot. But it's always like um, I'm trying to think of something without spoiling it, without spoiling any of my work. But like I had a short story come out in January in Strange New Moons anthology, which is a spin on werewolf tropes. And I
Hmm.
remember Stephen Kozanowski coming up and saying, "Hey, I'd like to have you a part of this. I want a werewolf story that's not a werewolf story." And I was like, "Oh, well, what if it's a reverse werewolf?" And like my mind just went from there, because
Yeah.
as soon as I had that thought, I had a picture in my head of the ending that is the actual ending of the book. And so I just took that picture in my head and just worked it backwards. And so pretty much all of my everything I've ever written, I've always written the ending first. Like the endings always popped into my head first, and then I don't write very linearly, so it might
Yeah.
be, oh, a scene here, and then a scene in the very beginning. Like usually the first chapter is the last thing I write.
Interesting. John Irving, I don't know if you're aware of him. He writes backwards. He writes with the ending first. I think he
Yeah,
says that he writes the very last sentence first, and then he kind
yeah.
of works backwards that way. And it's interesting that you do similar, because I've always you write the characters in This Is How a Villain Is Made are great. How do you when you, I find I start at the beginning and I work my way until the end, and that's how I learn who the characters are. How do you write realistic characters when you're starting at the end?
I think because the end is the point of where I want those characters to be. I that helps me to get into the mindset of what got them to that situation in the first place.
Okay.
And so, like for B, for example, with how the book ends with her, um, it's just what are the chain of events that got her from point A to point Z.
Mm.
And so I'll lay out those ideas of this happens, and then this happens, and this happens, and oh, we go sideways here. And then as I start to see the events that kind of unfold, and again, it sometimes doesn't happen that in a straight line. It's like I'll get a random thought here about this happening, and then here and here, and then I have to go and line them up. But as as I start seeing what situations evolve for that character, I'm like, oh, I start to see sparks of their personality come through, or who they are, what are their goals.
Hmm.
And so I'll start doing a deeper dive into that to be like, okay, now who is this person? And start to flesh them out a little bit more.
That's awesome. I maybe I'll try that sometime. I don't know. Usually, my stories ideas come with like the what if, and like, what if
Mm.
this and this were happening, and that for some reason is always at the beginning. And it's kind of frustrating. I don't always know the end. But before we continue, can you tell us what this is how a villain is made is about?
I like to say that this is my Eliza Doolittle from Pygmalion meets Dexter in the Old West.
Yeah.
So it follows the story of a character named Beatrix Beaumont, as she is kind of escaping um, a rough family dynamic with her father after her mother passed away.
Hmm.
Um, and so she's escaping out west. She she takes as much money as she can from him, and flees, and then has to, when money runs out, she has to figure out how to continue her trip because she knows if she stops, she'll get caught and taken
Set
back
back.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is set in the late 1800s, so dealing with trains and that. So no digital era stuff, no cell phones, no Ubers and things of that nature. So yeah, this is set in the late 1800s, and she's escaping out west. Situations happen where she becomes stranded, and she has to figure out how to fend for herself in those moments. And I'm doing my best to not give away the plot, but
Yeah.
she ends up finding employment that doesn't quite go as planned.
Yeah. Oh, this is going to be tricky to talk about because I don't want to give it. I went in blind, and it was a wild ride because of that. I had no idea where it was going, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best way, honestly, to enter some books, and this is one of them. I wanted to mention that I loved this book. The writing style was like butter melting into my brain,
Oh,
and I absolutely loved it. Were you cog- cognizant of developing your voice over the years, or did it just develop naturally? Or
um, I think I feel like my voice has always been my voice, but I was very restrained on letting it free. Like I feel like this book is me being me
Mhm.
finally. Like I was always told, I had someone tell me on one of the first short stories that I had published, your voice is too snooty. It's too literary. It's too highbrow. You're
Mhm.
writing genre, tone it down, which is an absolute bullshit response. Like,
Yeah.
come on. What is literary like versus genre? I mean, like, fuck off. Um,
have they read Stephen Graham Jones or
I
yeah.
seriously, and that's what I love seeing is like people are just like letting their voices shine, and I feel like though that hampered me a bit, and I can see like in my last novel or my first novel, and in my short story collection, I can I can see me letting go a little bit more each time.
Mhm.
With more recent short stories before This Is How a Villain Is Made came out, just letting myself loose a little bit more and a little bit more. And then this book, I'm like, I just need to like just be me. I just need to be me in this book and just let my voice be what it is.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it for that, but I also really like the characters. It's also interesting that it's a historical horror, as we mentioned. It takes place late 1800s. Was there an inspiration at all behind writing in this sentence or sorry setting?
Um, it's I love I love westerns. Like I'm not a die-hard western, but if one's on television, like if an old John Wayne movie just happens to be on television, I'll just stop and watch it. Like I just
Yeah.
love the gritty feel. I love not being restrained by technology,
Hmm.
because I feel like in having to write in current day, someone always has a cell phone on them. Someone always can call for help. And then you have to put them in a situation where there's no service. And it's just like, I feel like it's getting harder and harder to strand people to not call for help. And
Yeah.
so I am progressing my way. I feel like I'm writing a lot of historical stories lately. Like the next book I'm working on set in 1914. So I feel like I'm making my way through time
Yeah.
to come up to the present. But it's just I'm having fun not being in a digital era and
Yeah.
writing. And it's just I don't know whenever I thought of this ending to this story, I had pictured B in my head, and she never was a current time. She was never in the current time frame. She was always in the late 1800s. She was always out in Colorado, standing on a prairie, walking away from a burning house. Like she was always doing this. She was always like she was just always. She just was never current time.
Yeah. I found the characters to be interesting, as I keep talking about, but that's one reason why I read books. I love reading about people or characters. I think that's how we sort of see ourselves, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I found B to be really an interesting. Her journey is a dark one, and I I couldn't help but get angry at how people were treating her, especially the men. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wanted to talk about this, but I don't know how to approach it. But this is like a good example of female rage. And could you talk about that a little?
Yeah, and I just want people to feel unsettled reading this book, like with every page turn, because I mean, I don't know if all women feel this. I feel like a lot of women do. I
Mhm.
certainly feel this. Like I am always unsettled. I'm always looking over my shoulder. Um, I I was just walking down the street in a city the other day that I've never been to in my entire life, and there was someone walking behind me, and then all of a sudden, like their footsteps got faster and quicker, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, are they going to come up behind me and grab me or something like that? And it's just always that unsettled feeling of something's going to happen to you.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, I'm probably a very paranoid person to begin with, but it's just I wanted readers to kind of get into the minds of women and be like, we always have this heightened level of security about ourselves.
yeah,
Walking through a parking lot, going into a building, we're always looking around. We're always looking at the exit. We're always looking to see who's sitting next to us, just to make sure we're safe.
yeah,
And that's kind of the situation that, like, I put B in, is where she's always having to question her safety,
yeah,
because that's, as a woman, I'm doing every second I step foot outside the door.
yeah. I don't. I think you have to be paranoid as a woman, especially in a city at night, even in the
Mm-hmm.
daytime.
Yeah.
Um, I've seen things and I've experienced things myself. I used to have long hair and I used to have kind of a shapely body. If you saw me from behind, you might have thought I was a woman. And so I often got, I there's times when I got catcalled and then I turn around and they're like, oh,
But you know what that feels like. Like
yeah.
it's terrible. It's
And
horrible. It's like,
I,
I'm not inviting you to do that. Why are you doing that?
yeah, I actually have an experience of being stalked at night by a person who delivered papers. I debated with myself telling the story, but I think it's kind of relevant. I was like 18, and I had a girlfriend, and she lived just a couple of streets over from where I do. It was about 15-minute walk, and we'd watch movies until like 1 or 2 in the morning during the summer months, right? And then I'd walk
Hmm.
home. So I'm walking home at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and that's when this guy would be delivering papers. And like I said, I had hair that went all the way down halfway down my back, and he drove a van, and it was a very loud van, and it was scary
Oh my
because he
God.
started following me. And so
That's disturbing.
I would take alternate routes to try to get home without him, right? But it eventually came to the point where I had to call the cops. And this is another point where I know what it's like, maybe. I'm not saying I do know what it's like, but I've experienced it when talking to the cops. they questioned me whether what I was experiencing was real or not.
Yep.
And so they talked to the guy, and they said, the cop told me, well, whatever you experienced, basically they didn't believe me, but they said they talked to him anyway, and they said he wouldn't bother me anymore. So that night, after I talked to the cops, I even had my stepdad come out, and he saw the guy waiting for me to leave the house. He was parked down the road and watched him as he delivered the paper in one of those newspaper stands, right? So he was watching him wait for me to come out of the house, and that's when we phoned the cops, right? Anyways, the night after they talked to him, he took his boldest move, and as I was walking down the street, he took his van and he like jumped the curb and drove over the grass, and he yelled something out at me, and then he drove off. I couldn't hear what he said, but it was like angry, right? And then that was it. I never saw him again. But
that's horrific.
It was such a weird, and ever since then, I'm like, I understand, at least to a degree, what it's like. Because after that, I was like, I'm glad I wasn't born a woman, because if I was a woman, I'd have to experience this all the fucking time. And
it's the lack of belief by authorities that you're reaching out to for help. It's just like, why do I have to keep proving myself?
Yeah.
Like, this is happening to me. Here's the receipts. What more do you want?
Yeah, I even had a witness, my stepdad.
Yeah, it's still never enough.
But when he was talking to me, he was like, "Are you sure that that's what he was doing?" Because we talked to him, and he said he wasn't doing that. And it's like, so it's his word against mine? Is it because I'm 18, or what's going on here? I have my stepdad. He saw it happen. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that is why I wrote that book.
Yeah, I heard you talking
about.
I wrote
it.
It made me think of, like, I haven't really thought of that story in years. And then I heard you talking on a podcast about the book, and how you mentioned something similar, that going outside, you don't know what you're going to deal with. And suddenly I thought of that story, and I was like, geez, maybe I shouldn't talk about it, because I am a man, and I don't know what it's like to be a woman. But I have experienced maybe just a little bit of what goes on a day-to-day routine, and I wouldn't be able to do it. I would be angry all the time.
Yeah, it's infuriating. And then, like in your situation, you're gaslit into thinking, no, that didn't happen. No, you're making that up. No, it's all in your head. And so you kind of start to isolate yourself, and, you become a hermit.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of a hermit anyway, but and I no longer look like a woman from behind. So as you age, you gain weight and stuff, I no longer obviously have blonde hair. But I wanted to talk about Jonathan. Jonathan is an interesting character, because you want to talk about gaslighting. This guy is like the master of it, and he's not a very nice guy at all.
Yeah. I have a lot of experience with narcissists, so
yeah, he was like, he was definitely that. And the interesting thing about narcissists is how they're never wrong. And I think Jonathan did. I keep going to say Jonathan, but if he was here, he would. Correct
it would be Jonathan.
Jonathan. There's no H in there. There's no th.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, he doesn't even pronounce it correctly, but that's a story for another day.
Well, that goes into they can never be wrong, right? Even if they do something wrong, even if they break their own rule, it's like, well, I don't care. You don't do it, I can, right? That kind of thing. Is Jonathan? Is he like a collection of people you've known, or is it based on just one person? You don't have to answer either. If you don't.
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on that one. But with him, like, the big thing that I wanted to show, like, because I'm very much into analyzing nature versus nurture, and the narcissism, and I've unfortunately been the brunt of narcissism. On one hand, it's absolutely horrific. It's maddening. It's abusive, but on the other hand, it's like, how it's fascinating because I'm like, how can you be that delusional? And so I think when I experience certain situations, I try to take a step back and I'm like, why are you the way you are? And look at how such and such person is brought up. What have they experienced? Are villains born or are they made? Are they actually a villain? Because a villain is only a villain in the mind of a hero. And every villain is a hero in their own mind. So it's just like, those were a lot of things that were going through my mind as I was writing his character. Because I'm like, is he really a bad guy? Yeah. Yes. But is he? Looking at what he went through, looking at the nurture or lack thereof in how he was brought up, did that shape him? Because this person, their name just went right out of my mind, but he did a study of looking at brain scans of serial killers and noticing like brain texture or brain waves between serial killers and your I guess, what would they be? Sociopaths, psychopaths, sociopaths. I always get those mixed up. But people who are suffering through that versus people who aren't, and then looking at the nature versus nurture aspect. And so this person who ran this study looked at his own brain and said, "Oh my gosh, based off the data, I should be a sociopath or a psychopath." And he's like, but because of the way I was brought up, I was able to put in gates keeping me from going to that line.
That's interesting.
He's like, I'm a borderline narcissist, and I could admit that. He's like, but I know right from wrong.
Yeah.
And I know that because of how I was raised.
That's interesting because I've always had that thought. I don't know where it came. I'm pretty sure it probably came from somewhere else, somebody asking it. But the idea of murdering somebody else, it's either in you to do it or it's not. And it has to be kind of triggered if it is in you. Because there's plenty of people who could maybe have killed, and we're stepping away from the book here a bit, but there's people who could have killed in order to defend themselves or whatever, but they couldn't bring themselves to do it. But then there's other people, it's like, come on, bring it, like, I'm ready.
Yeah. I think when it comes down to that, it's a biological mix with a social nature. Like, I think there's people who are probably biologically predisposed to be that, but based on how they're raised or based on what social situations are, it determines whether they are or not going to have that kind of future.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
And I wish I wasn't so travel lagged right now because my brain is not functioning at 100%. So I could remember the name of that doctor who was doing that study, because it's absolutely fascinating.
Well, you don't have to worry because my brain is probably functioning at about 40%. There's plenty.
Okay, great. So we're going to have a good talk.
Every time I try to say something intelligent, I can't remember the words. So I have to circle around it. Yeah.
I'm feeling right now because I'm running on like 2 hours of sleep after a 20-hour flight. So
I don't know how you do that. Oh man. That's awful. I'm sorry. we could have talked at another.
No, it's all good because I was really excited to talk to you when you messaged me.
Okay. I don't want to spoil too much about the story, but there's a couple of things I wanted to dig into just a little bit. I hope we can discuss it without spoiling it. The first thing is there's a lot of examinations of dead bodies and autopsies and whatnot that happen in this book. I want to know what was the research for this like, and I'm wondering if your Google is now being tracked by the FBI.
Yes, 100% it's being tracked. But like, I used to be an EMT, and even before that, like all throughout high school and college, like my dream goal was to be a marine biologist. That never happened um, due to certain circumstances in life. But I've always studied anatomy, human,
Hmm.
different kind of animal anatomy. So like a lot of it I just knew. And then I'd fact check myself because I want to make sure I'm right. Like that's the big thing with this book, from the historical standpoint and the anatomical standpoint. Like it it should be all right.
Yeah.
Because I did extensive research on everything, and like anything that I knew offhand, like I fact checked myself to make sure, yeah, you are sounding right. That is the sound of how a sternum sounds like whenever it's snapping. Because I've done chest compressions, I know what that feels like and sounds like. So I'm
Yeah.
feeling like having cut open the sternum is gonna, sound like this, and wrote it. And then I went and listened to some um, medical autopsies, which is probably why I'm being tracked. But I've watched a lot of autopsy videos for this, and I'm
I
like,
didn't
okay,
know
yeah,
those.
that's what I thought.
I didn't know those. Are these like on medical? Maybe
Yes,
university.
I paid for some
Oh,
videos.
okay.
That
Because
sounds really dirty, but yes, I paid for some videos.
paid for it, baby. Yeah. I can't imagine like looking it up on YouTube. I might try it tonight just to see if there is anything, but I'm not too sure if I want to actually. But uh, that's a pretty,
There's some rogue things you can find out there,
yeah.
but my problem is sometimes there were a couple things that I'd found. I look at it and I'm like, not sure if this is AI or not.
Oh yeah, AI is ruining
Yeah,
everything, isn't it?
it is. It
Yeah.
is.
I can't even tell
So,
what's real anymore. Like you come across these memes. There's some of them I fell for. I'm like, oh, that's so funny, and I share it with my friends. And then afterwards, I notice it's AI, and I'm like, oh, I look like an
I
idiot
know,
now.
and then I sit there and I'm like, as a creator, what's this going to do to us in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah,
Like, oh God, that's not a topic I'm ready to talk about.
I to give you hope, I say just keep doing what you're doing. I think
Yeah,
we'll be fairly okay. It's gonna change things, but I don't think it's gonna wipe writers out, human writers out
yeah.
at all. I
No,
think,
we like to create too much. I don't see
yeah.
how it can.
I mean,
So,
yeah, there'll be more of a market or
yeah,
whatever, but a bigger market. But yeah, at least we're not in the movie business because that can be totally fabricated, right?
that's yeah. Especially with, did you see that new actress? I forget what
Yeah,
her name is. I'm like, are you kidding me?
it's terrifying.
Why?
Yeah,
Why?
it's crazy.
Oh, and now we're making the bots mad because we're talking poorly about them. So, we should say thank you, ChatGPT. You're the
Yeah,
best. Don't come and annihilate us when the robots take over the world. We love
yeah.
you.
Well, I'm always nice to my cell phone. When I'm talking to Siri, I'm polite and I say please and thank you, just in case.
Oh, I should. I don't really use any of that. I finally broke down and bought an Alexa 6 months ago.
Oh yeah,
I never really use it except to play music, and then I'm like, no, I am not a tech person.
yeah. Okay, so the next question here could go into spoiler territory, so I'll cut it out if it is, or you can
Okay,
just say let's talk about something else. But there comes a
sounds
point
good.
where we don't have to go into the specifics here, but B makes a decision. She makes a pretty big decision right around the middle mark, um, and I think if anyone else handled it, I wouldn't have believed it. But the way you wrote it, I don't know if you know the part I'm talking about. I don't want to say,
Oh, I know.
and I was just like, I can totally believe because what's she gonna do? What is she going
Yeah.
to do? She can't do anything, so she makes this choice, and it was absolutely believable. When you were writing that scene, did it surprise you as much as it surprised? Because I was like, oh my god, she could have done something, but she didn't, and she made this choice. Did it surprise you?
Yeah, it's it it did and it didn't, because it's she's a risk taker,
Mm-hmm.
but she's not so much of a risk taker as to deal with the unknown to that extent, where it's like she hit this point. And I'm trying to think of like how to talk about this without spoiling it, because I that's a fan, like, I love this question so much. But she was given two impossible decisions,
Hmm.
and neither decision was going to be a right decision, because what she envisioned happening to her with the choice she didn't make would have happened.
Yeah.
Um, it's, I did a lot of research into, like, okay, if this happens to a woman in this situation, how would they survive? And it would have happened. So one way or the other, it was going to happen. And she's just like, sometimes it's the devil that's better than the devil you don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of what it boiled down to.
I think she's
And
very
it was
good at
also,
rationalizing, and I think
yeah.
that like she knew what the stakes were in that
And
moment.
and she was kind of like, because there's been times that it's just like, this is the lot that I've been dealt, and no matter how hard I try and fight to get away from it, I'm just going to keep getting sucked back in. So is it that I go back in and control it on my terms? Even though, and I like to think that's what was going on in the back of her mind when she made the decision.
Yeah.
Um, because it's like, again, is it better to deal with the devil than the devil you don't know? And so, I tried to sit there and be like, okay, if someone's reading this, will they see this as a believable decision? And that's why, like, I tried to have her rationalize it out,
Yeah.
because I didn't want people to be like, oh, that's a cop out. That's, you know,
But it was a good
you know,
point.
you,
Those points
yeah,
that she comes up with are very realistic. Because as
and
I said, what's she gonna do?
yeah, and in all of our lives, we are at some point, whether we face that point or not, we are going to be faced with two impossible decisions that we have to make. And I hope that everyone sits and rationalizes each one to determine which is the lesser of the two evils to take. Um, I've unfortunately been there where it's like you just have to sit there and you're like, I'm not coming out of this well. So,
Hmm.
which is going to be the least hurtful?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like the position that I put her in, unfortunately.
I found that scene fascinating because you also alter expectations of the reader, I think, and it worked brilliantly. Maybe it shouldn't have worked, but it did, and kudos to you for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. It was a hard scene. There were some scenes where it's like I had to put the book away for a couple days before coming back to it, because this book went through many iterations. And I know a lot of people come back and say, "Oh, this book should have been longer," but it's like,
No, I
no,
think
it
it's
it,
perfect.
it couldn't be longer.
Yeah,
It's it's too much emotionally.
honestly, I could see this adapted into like a movie, like a sort of
I would love that.
like a an art house type movie. I think because it's
Yeah,
a
I
time
would love
period
that.
and it's very dark. It goes into very dark places,
Yeah.
and I would love to see this as a movie. I say that a lot, but maybe not often. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but I love this story as like a an independent film done like the way it was in my head. You know what I mean? I think it
Yeah.
would be brilliant. Brilliant.
I would love it. Shot with that gritty cinematography of like an old John Wayne movie.
Yeah,
I would
yeah, that
love
would be
that.
great. Yeah. So, Uncomfortably Dark put this book out.
Hmm.
What was it like working with? I just spoke with Candace Nola yesterday, and so what was it like working with her?
Candace is a queen. Like, I absolutely adore Candace.
Yeah,
She's one of those publishers who is just all about her authors. She tries to do everything she can to make us happy and satisfied. Like, she really goes. Her and Christina and the rest of Candace's team. Like, I know her children help her out and things like that. Um, they are like just die hard all about the authors, and it's fantastic. Like, she's so supportive So kind. I can't say enough good things about Candace Nola. She's just a wonderful, wonderful human being.
She was great to talk to, and I might be hiring her editing service.
Oh, she's good.
Yeah.
She's good.
So, do you think B will return in future stories at all?
I don't know. Because, yeah, I'm not sure. Now, there is a tie-in with Lily and Will in my short story collection. So Lily and Will make an appearance in a short story that ties in the whole cosmic horror element.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that doesn't really show up in this book because this book is very much a one setting kind of book.
Yeah.
But there is a whole other cosmic horror element with this town that may appear. I think B has rode off into the sunset, but don't know for sure. She might make an appearance. There will definitely be references to her.
Yeah.
There's references to her in my new novel. But I don't know if she will make an appearance. So we will see. TBD.
The only reason why I ask is because she's different now after everything she went through. What's it going to be like for her 5 years down the road? What's she going to be doing?
Well, if this was like 2025, she would be a girl boss.
Yeah.
Hands down, girl boss.
Well, she technically is, and she handled herself well at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. When she finally found herself, she was like, all right, I'm done playing these games. No more.
She found her true calling.
Yeah. Let's just say B is fine. She made it to where she wants to be and figured out how to handle herself very well.
Awesome. I love it. I love it so much. I love this book, and I can't wait to read more from you. Because, like I said, man, everything was just so great. The whole experience of reading this book was just fantastic for me. And
I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
And it's probably going to be up there in the top 10. I say that a lot, but I've said it less than 10 times. So I think your book is going to be there for sure. There's no way it can't be. So I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking with me. But before we go, what can listeners look forward to? And you've kind of brushed upon it, but what's coming out that you can talk about?
I have a lot of work in the pipelines. So next book, not to give a lot of details away, but we're writing a novel with dinosaurs. Finally, I'm so excited. And then I have another novel with bees. So I'm like revisiting my scientific roots in those two. And then I have a bunch of short stories that I'll be working on. There is an exquisite corpse anthology that I believe is going to be coming out next year. There's going to be a Kickstarter coming out soon on that, where I will have a chapter in that. Exquisite Corpse is one story by 13 authors, so we all have to write our own chapter. So there's that, and then there's a few other things that I have coming out hopefully next year, but I can't announce them yet, so we'll keep those under wraps for now.
Awesome. So you're invited to come back anytime you want.
I would love that. This was a fun chat.
Yeah, I'll email you, or you can email me, and we'll set it up.
Absolutely, that sounds great. We could talk more about existential dread and the deepest, darkest points in space.
Absolutely, I love that. I mean, this year has been really wild for that on this podcast. This is the fourth person. You're the fourth person I've discussed this type of stuff with, and I could make a podcast on it alone. I'm not gonna go there because that I have too many things going on. But that just
maybe
hit me.
Maybe you should do an episode, or an episode of this where you bring like a couple of us on and we just all like sit down, have a drink or two, and just talk about space and cosmic horror.
I would love that. We need to do that. Maybe I'll set that up.
That would be fun.
That
would be fun.
Episode.
And I'll make sure I'm not traveling ahead of time so my brain's a little more functional.
Yeah, maybe in the new year, so at some point.
That would be fun.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I can't wait to talk to you again.
Thank you. Yeah, have a great night. Thank you, and
You
thanks
too.
everyone for watching.
I hope you get a good sleep tonight.
I hope so too.